All right. It is Play PS5, the podcast. I know it has been so long, but this is Adam. I'm with your host, Alex. How are you doing tonight, Alex?
Adam, we set up this show a little bit. We talked a little bit on the camera before we started recording. I'm really disappointed you haven't commented on my drastic weight loss. I've been working really hard and you haven't said a dang thing. I know I'm still a little bit top heavy, but I'm working on it, Adam. Other than that, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Didn't notice you lost a pound, but I am doing well. And I have a little story for you, Alex. So a guy goes into a bar and he tells the bartender, will you give me free drinks for the night if I show you something that you have never seen? And the bartender says, sure, absolutely. Go ahead. What do you got? Dude opens up a box. He brings this little box. He pulls out this little piano, sets it on the bar. Then he pulls out this little miniature man, almost like a gnome. And that little person starts playing the piano. Bartender's like, oh, whoa, I have never seen that. Touche, drinks on me all night. The original guy is like, you know what? Thank you for being so nice and playing along. I found this using a little lamp that I have here. I rubbed it. A genie came out and you get one wish. I've done my one wish. I want you to have a wish. So the bartender takes it, rubs the lamp. Genie comes out. What do you want? The guy closes his eyes, makes a wish. Boom. Instantly, there are hundreds of ducks in the bar. They are everywhere. He looks to the original guy, the bartender, and says, hey, I asked for $1 million, not 1,000,000 ducks. And the original guy, he says, oh, yeah, I know. What do you think? I asked for a 12-inch pianist?
What did he ask for? A 12-inch. He got a 12-inch pianist.
Oh, he got a 12-inch pianist, but that's it. Listen, this is Play PS5, the podcast, and we do apologize. We have gone a little radio silent, but we have had some life change, and we're working on, I would consider a passion project, and I think it is going to be big. We are very excited, but it's taken a little time to get formed and get things rolling. So at some point we'll have what I would consider a pretty big announcement. I'm pretty excited for it. And both Alex and we're pumped. So, but for tonight, we have so much to cover, but we're going to hit the highlights. What do you think is on the docket tonight, Alex? And what do you want to talk about?
Adam, it's a PS4 game, as all PS5 games seem to be these days. It's Ghost of Tsushima. I finally got around to playing it. You finally got around to playing it. The PS5 upgrade came out, so we can finally talk about it. Also, one of my anticipated launch titles finally got released. It was not a launch title anymore. It's been about a year since the PlayStation 5 launch. But Kina, Bridge of Spirits, is a game that I finally get to spend some time with, and we'll talk about that as well, Adam. And then there's been a smattering of releases, games coming out just now that we want to touch upon. But before we can talk about anything, we got to talk about gamer juice. What's your gamer juice tonight, dog?
So I've got some raspberry lemonade, and it is quite tart, I will say, but it will do well. And it tastes pretty good. It's water hydrating me. So nothing too incredibly special, but I'm curious what you have. You always have something either extremely boring or really out there.
Extremely boring. It's the Blue Moon Citrus Wheat Light Sky. I think it's Blue Moon for women. And that's what I have. Nothing against women. I like girly drinks, and it's a girly drink. Adam, that drink, if you're listening, everybody, Adam, I don't think he's drinking raspberry lemonade. I think he got punched in the kidney and peed in a jar, is what that looks like. It just looks like
definitely red and or pink. So it's not.
It looks like bloody urine, Adam.
Okay, now it could look like bloody urine. Yeah, that could be. So I'm hopping right now into Ghost of Tsushima because this is a game that now is PS5, the director's cut. There was a whole big deal about if you had the original game, you had to pay extra for the director's cut, all that stuff. I'm ignoring that. I mean, there's a lot of extra content to it. It's worth the extra $10 if you have it. But the game itself, I have to admit, I am extremely impressed. And I think it's a game that maybe you would agree, Alex, I did not think I would like, but I ended up loving it. I'm not a big, I'm not sure how to say this. Alex, do you think it's safe to say that I'm not the most culturally relevant and
You're racist.
that is not true. That is not true. But I do have deficiencies in my cultural knowledge. I will acknowledge that. And the Japanese culture is one that I, in fact, do have a lot of deficiencies. So,
which
I'm
is
not
hilarious
really-
you say that because it's a Chinese game. I don't know why.
Are you kidding me? Are you serious?
I'm just joking. No, you're right. It's
Oh
Japanese.
my! I was like, the thing is, I would have believed you.
Yeah,
I don't know where Tsushima is, which I didn't even know Tsushima was a real place, but it is. So that tells you how big of an idiot I am. Is Iki Island a real place?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So is like Toyotama that a real place?
Yeah. Yeah.
So everywhere. Okay, that's cool. So that just shows you, listeners, that I am literally clueless. But those type of like cultural games where it's just a different culture, I don't really understand it. This sounds horrible. I don't really care that much. So I have no interest in them. So I wasn't interested in this game whatsoever. When it came out last year, I know everyone said it's incredible. Alex said it was good. I just didn't care. But PS5 has let me down. There's so little games that come out for the system. I bought it. I had low expectations, but holy crap, it is an awesome game. I would say right now, and I want you to think, Alex, I want your rating, but out of 10, I am going, I mean, I think I'm going to give it, it's an 8.5 or a 9. Like it is the game. I don't remember the last time I've played a game that I was like, wow. I mean, it may have been Nier Automata or maybe Nier Replicant. It's very good. So I give it 8.5 or 9. What would you give it, Alex?
I mean, we're just coming right out of the gate and ruining our discussion of it. But yeah, no, I think, 8.5, maybe not. I haven't finished it like you have. I've gotten, 3/4 of the way through it. I'm really pleased with it. Probably 8.5 or 9. My question, Adam, for you is, are you giving it an 8.5 or 9 because you're a cheapskate and you finally paid full price for a game and you're trying to like justify your purchase?
No. And I bought the physical edition because originally my plan was to play it and sell it. But I like it enough that I'm like, do I do that or should I might keep it because years down the road, I say year or whatever, it's fun enough that I might play it again. I might create a new save state. I may go for the platinum. That is really rare. Most of the time, I'm always going to take back the money. I could sell it. I essentially played a 60-hour game for $20 then. And money talks, baby. And the fact that I'm not going to sell it back should be a testament to how much I enjoyed the game. So I'm solidly at 8.5 and 9. But you mentioned that you're starting to get worn down a little bit and it's getting a little repetitive. Are 3/4 of the way in, do you feel that? Like, do you want to finish it or are you kind of thinking that you're going to just take a break and maybe come back to it later?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one gripe I might have with the game is its pacing. You start off the game, for those who haven't played it, and this isn't really a spoiler, you start the game fighting, there's a Mongol invasion on the island of Tsushima. You're a samurai with your other friendly samurai, your army of samurai, and you go into this Mongol invasion and you basically get destroyed. Your uncle gets captured, who's kind of the lord of the group, and you go to try to rescue him. You get defeated, but you don't die, and you kind of come back, and your goal is to try to rescue your uncle. So that's a decent driver. Seeing where the game is going, because ultimately maybe the story is you want to defeat this Mongol invasion, and what feels like 3/4 of the game. From when I talk to people, it's 3/4 of the game. I feel like I've only covered maybe like a quarter of the story. Basically, what happens is after so many hours, I've put 20 or 30 hours into this game. I've finally expanded into like the second territory, the second act of the game, and the map has now like quadrupled in size from what I had for the first time. And it feels like they introduced too much too quickly, if that makes sense. Basically, I've now seen everything that the game has to offer, and they've just unloaded 4 times that amount of stuff for me to just continue doing over and over and over again. And I might be wrong, but is that where I'm heading at? Do you see everything in the game in that first island? And then as you move on, it just gets harder, maybe some slight variations of a bit tougher enemies. But is there new elements come into play, or have I kind of seen it all and now I just get to act out the rest of the story?
So I definitely think your gripe is a legitimate one. So in the beginning, one thing that I didn't think about it didn't bother me as much as it does you, although I can see why it does. So in the beginning, you know that Khotan Khan, that's the guy ultimately that you're trying to free your uncle from and things of that nature. Again, not spoiler, you learn that immediately. So you would think the first act would be get to Khotan Khan, kill him. But that one simple task is broken up into the 3 acts. So I see where you're saying, like, it's all boom right there. Like, they could have broken it up as figure out where your uncle is and then find who the capturer is and then kill the capturer. Instead, they kind of blew their load immediately. And now, yeah, that one task, you have 60 hours of gameplay or whatever it is to accomplish it. So I see where you're going. The good news is the Tsushima, the very first area, is easily the longest. It has the most stuff in it. It takes the longest, has the most tails. The second section is it's a lot smaller. It does introduce some new enemies, a couple of new gameplay elements. And then the third act is a lot shorter. I was surprised. It's like maybe 3 tails, 3 missions, and boom, you're done. So you do have that to look forward to. Once you're in Act 3, you really are in the last 100 meters. So that I think is good. And jumping off kind of almost what you said, I think the plot is average at best. The plot motivated me none whatsoever. I could care less about my uncle. Kill him for all I care. There's something, I won't say it, but yeah, I don't think.
Don't say it, because I don't want to spoil it for me, much less the listeners.
It's not a plot point. It's something that happens, and I'm just like, why? Stupid game developers sometimes. Like, I like people who go off script. That's why I like Yoko Taro. Everything else is so predictable. This game, I won't go anymore. So
I think, well, since we're on the topic of plot, I think there's 2 things at odds here. Is that on one hand, obviously the game is inspired by the movies of Akira Kurosawa. I mean, that's obvious in the fact that you go in the options, there's the Kurosawa mode that runs the game in like a grainy black and white film, much like his, acclaimed films, Seven Samurai, Rashomon, stuff like that. And so, of course, it has the thing about like Seven Samurai. I know you haven't seen that movie, Adam. You should probably watch it, but you probably hate it. Is that it seems like a standard, action type revenge tale. But when you realize that was the first movie to do all of these things, explore all of these plots, do all of the cinematography, it kind of elevates its status. It's like, wow, it was doing something new at the time, stuff that was so great that every other movie's tried to emulate it. So that's kind of why I'm okay with the plot following along with that. The other thing about the plot is that I'm kind of okay with a weak main plot, because what I've noticed is that the subplots are a lot more interesting. And we've seen this in games.
They're horrible.
Maybe for you, but you don't like to listen to people talk. You don't like to dive in.
I
and
do.
Things.
That's why I love Nier Automata so much, because you have the main plot, which is just everywhere, but then the side plots just emotionally wreck you. This is garbage. This is predictable crap. That's family drama and stupidity. Not a fan. I'm glad you like it. I think it sucks.
That's what I've enjoyed and that's part of my problem, is that I spent a lot of the first part of the game exploring these subplots, following these subplots with the Straw Hat Ronin and the archery master whose student has lost her way, and the woman, the female samurai whose family was brutally murdered by traitors, and she's seeking revenge. And I think the game does a very good job of exploring the difficulties of those relationships. Like, normally you play a game, there's a revenge tale, and you're gung-ho about getting revenge. This one, it has nuance to it, and it's well appreciated. And I'm looking forward to seeing the resolution of the story, even though I kind of see where it's going. but then there's other like miniature subplots. You get new weapons, like when you get, you know, the curse of Uchitsune, where you get the longbow that is like the stronger bow. That was mind blowing to me. If you're in the right mindset and you approach it with the right respect when you're fighting this, you know, the duel that you end up having to earn that bow was just, I just took a step back and just thought, wow, this is like an incredibly wild experience, and I'm really enjoying it right now.
Can you? I say screw it. If they haven't played it yet, they're not going to. I don't remember it. Will you tell me what?
You're searching for this bow, this legendary bow that has a curse associated with it, and there's a guy. Every time you get one step closer to finding this bow, a guy shoots a flaming arrow at you and just misses you and says, "Stop looking for it." And then the resolution of that story. I thought that final duel.
No, I remember that, but what's the resolution? I don't remember. Like, what took your breath away? I'm trying to remember it.
The setting of the final duel. Where you have the final duel, what goes on.
Will you just tell me, or do you not remember?
I'm not going to tell you because I want to spoil it for the listeners. So I'll tell you.
Oh my!
Because these are the things I like about the game, and I don't want to ruin that for somebody else. But these smaller stories are a lot more affecting than the major story. So I think that's my issue, is that I spend a lot of time on the smaller story, and now I feel like the game's entered this area as I go into this next set, where it's like too difficult and it's trying to do all this other stuff. And I'm not motivated anymore to explore it. I want to find more of these smaller stories, but maybe they're more difficult than they need to be. Granted, I'm playing the game on lethal mode because the game felt too easy at first. I probably just need to knock the difficulty down, burn through the main story, and then explore these smaller stories in like a chapter basis myself. So that's where we're going to go there. But I do think that brings us to a good segue of the combat, Adam. How do you feel about the combat? You know, it's sword fighting. It's archery. You have those cool like ninja weapons. There's some stealth action if you want to do it, which is another cool thing, is that it doesn't force you to do stealth. You don't feel penalized for doing stealth, and you don't feel penalized for not doing stealth. How are you feeling about the combat?
Can you say penalized one more time?
You don't feel penisized for not doing stealth.
It's penalized. You dork.
It doesn't hurt your penis when you don't approach a stealthy situation.
So it's funny that we've been talking about this for 15 minutes maybe, and everything I said has been derogatory. But here's the thing. First of all, the two highlights for me is that you're going to pay, I don't know what the price is now, $60 for director's cut. You are going to get hours and hours and hours. Like, I'm probably at 50, 60 hours. And if I want to platinum it, I have a lot more to go. You're going to get tons of content. It is well worth the money. And two, the combat, as you mentioned, it is, in my opinion, the best combat of any game I've ever played. So in the beginning, it throws a lot at you, which I think that could have been spread out more too, looking back. But they give you, in a very short time, a lot of options to combat. And I remember I even told Alex, I was like, there are too many button combinations. I don't like that. But as you get familiar with it, it becomes incredibly fun, because some of it still is challenging, but you can prepare ahead of time, because you have exploding arrows and fire arrows and longbow and half bow. And you have kunai. How do you say that?
Yeah, you did it. You did it.
Kunai. You got kunai and sticky bombs and black powder bombs. You've
Smoke bombs.
Smoke, and then you can go and it's just so fun, because, for example, in The Last of Us, kind of what Alex is alluding to, you are forced to be stealthy. You have to. The game forces you to. But in this game, you can go Rambo, and you could be perfectly fine going Rambo. I'm not going to die. It's a different combat style. That's awesome. Or I have the option to be stealthy and murder everyone without anyone noticing. The fact that you get to pick and choose how you want to fight in that exact moment, and rarely, there are a couple missions that they make you be stealthy or whatever, but rarely, I mean, less than 3% of the time, you fight how you want to fight, which sounds maybe a little ridiculous and overstated, but seriously, different times I felt like I want to sneak around. Like, that's fun. They just made the combat so fluid and smooth. The transitions are incredible. The buttons are, it's so responsive. The DualSense You got some movement and haptic feedback and things going. It's incredible. I really can't think of a combat system that I've enjoyed more than that. And I'm racking my brain everywhere from Super Nintendo, all of the newer games. I like Kingdom Hearts. I like Nier. Like the combat's not even close to any of those. Is there a game? First, do you like the combat as much as I do, Alex? And if you do, or even if you don't, is there a game that you can remember that had this fluid of combat and it's just simply fun to play?
There's games have great combat, and this is right up there with them. It has excellent combat engine. I love changing stances mid-fight, which is something I normally didn't do in a game.
Yeah.
Devil May Cry, I never changed weapons mid-fight. God of War, I never changed weapons and stances and stuff like that mid-fight, just because it was cumbersome and didn't feel necessary. This game does a really good job of making you want to utilize all the tools at your disposal, and then also making you not feel like you've wasted an opportunity to play the game they want you to play. A lot of games, you approach a situation and you like approach a camp of enemies, and you go in there, and something happens, you kill all the enemies, and then as you're leaving, you're like, oh, there's that place I was supposed to go to, drop the trap and kill all the guys, and there's that place I was supposed to go and stealthily assassinate everybody. But in this game, no matter how I end up, completing the encounter, I feel like I did it in an appropriate way that the game designers intended. And that's really difficult to do. Usually when I play a game like this, where you have all these different sub-weapons and stuff like that, what happens is I just power my way through with the main weapon, and I finish the game with like infinity kunai and a bajillion smoke bombs, or maybe they limit how many you have, but you just never use them. Kind of like you go through Resident Evil and you use the pistol the entire time. You go through, Mass Effect. You just use your main weapon the whole time. Don't use your magic. Some people are good about that. This game makes it easy to, be flexible in your approach. And I really appreciate that. The one game I think that this feels like to me is Mad Max on the PS4. And like nobody played that game, but I absolutely loved it. Another open world game a lot like this. So I really enjoy it. I enjoy the flexibility of the game design to make the player feel like what they're doing is appropriate. You never feel like you cheesed the system. You never feel like you gamed the system inappropriately. You always feel like you did something that you were supposed to do. And it's hard to do that, and it feels great when you do that.
Yeah, I want to keep moving on because we got other stuff to talk about, but I feel like unfortunately we aren't talking as much about the combat, which is the highlight of the game, and it is so exceptional, but it really is. It's incredible. Strongly encourage anyone. I think if I like this game, I think anyone is going to like it. I think you have to play it. The director's cut does include some extra stuff. At this point, you might as well get the director's cut if you haven't gotten it. The Iki Island expansion, I'm maybe halfway through it. Honestly, I don't think it's very good. The plot is garbage. The enemies are a lot harder, which Alex likes difficulty. I like going in and being able just to absolutely slaughter people. So I have it on medium, but and that's just enough challenge where like I've died maybe once, but I can't sleepwalk through. Like I still have to try. And they have added activities. So in the main game, you do haiku, or you find foxes that take you to a shrine that you can honor. And there are different activities to do in the main game, and they added some new ones for the Iki Island. But those new activities, they're kind of dumb. I don't really like them. They don't add anything, and they seem forced, almost like, well, we had to add something. So, like I said, this is a game with dual sense utilization. I think with the combat, the length of the game, I think it's one of the best games I've played, but I can't really rank it. Like, if I had to give you top 5 games, I don't think this would be in it. I don't know why. Is there something missing, Alex? Or it's not like I've played so many incredible games that I have this immaculate list that can't be touched. Just for some reason, I feel like it's missing something to be called like this is one of the very best games I've ever played in my life.
So this is going to sound really, I don't know, pretentious, but I think that it's kind of a hallmark to their inspiration of the game, that the game is filled with so much subtext. It's really weird because the game's put out by, I believe, a European studio, but that one of its values in being a game about subtext is a very Japanese value. If you read any classical Japanese literature, there's no wow, there's no like hooks. It's a lot of subtext, a lot of subtleties that if you appreciate, if I had to describe it, it would give you like you eat a dish that isn't spicy or super sweet. It gives you that whole mouth taste that's just real satisfying because of its subtlety. This is a game, although it's got engaging combat, it's got some fun story and absolutely gorgeous graphics. I think the real value in it is the subtlety. And that's what makes it hard to think, gee whiz, this is the best game I ever played, because nothing's slapping you in the face saying, appreciate this above everything else. But what I do appreciate that this game does is it really, really, really embraces the setting and location of Japan. And in that particular era, you really get a sense of like, wow, people could have lived like this. People did live like this. There was a time where people had this kind of life. Maybe not as violent and samurais dueling all the time, but there was a time of Japan's history that was kind of along these lines. And it feels realistic, but also engaging. And yeah, again, it's not flashy, but it's effective and subtle. And that's why I think it's hard to rank the game. Yeah.
All right. Next game is Kina, Bridge of Spirits. You've played, I don't know how much of this you've played. I have not personally played this. When I even saw it during launch area timing, I never thought this game looked good. I never wanted to play it. So I'm intrigued to see what you think about it. So you tell me your initial thoughts and I will pepper in why I was right.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing with Kina Bridge of Spirits. It's a game that everybody was like, wow, it looks like, Sony's answer to The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild or something like that. In the sense that it's an action adventure, an action RPG type game that's a bit lighthearted, maybe more appropriate for a younger generation, but it still has kind of some dark tones to it. And I will say that that's obviously what they were shooting for. Now, my skepticism for this game when it came out was that the developers, Ember Labs, really, they don't have much history as game makers, but they did have history as graphic designers. I think they made some really good trailers. And that comes across in spades in the graphical space. The game looks gorgeous, whether or not you're down with the style of basically a Pixar game meets Studio Ghibli, that kind of aesthetic. It is incredibly sharp. The environments are incredibly detailed. They are lush. They can be breathtaking at times. And as good as they look in the trailers, I feel like the game looks even better in motion when you're playing it. So there's that. But what I will say is that you can certainly tell that this is an indie game in the sense that some of the game stuff that we take for granted now in the modern generation of games seems a little bit forgotten. Particularly when I first played the game, the engine felt rather stilted. There's times when I would kind of get hung up on geometry and my character would float. There's invisible-ish walls. The swimming is incredibly slow, even though there's not much of it. It's just I don't want to touch the water because I don't want to have to suffer through this slow swimming. The game, this is really nitpicky, but when you go to run, your character has like a walking speed and a running speed, and the change between those two is instantaneous. And it's not bad. It's not like she runs too slow, but it's just that it feels a bit dated in the engine. And the real way to hammer that idea home is that I describe this game as a PlayStation 2 game with PlayStation 5 graphics. And I mean that in both the good and the bad way. If you remember the PlayStation 2 era, you had games like that was the era that gave birth to Jak and Daxter and Sly Cooper and even these B tier games like Tak and the
Gex.
Power of Get. Well, Gex is more in 64. Okay, but those
I didn't. Yeah. I definitely played it on PlayStation.
Not PlayStation 2, which is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Was it PlayStation 1?
It was PlayStation 1 and N64. So anyways, I digress. My point is that those are games that don't really get made anymore. You don't see games like Haven or that. There was that one game that was like a Skittles game. Those are games that I really have feelings for. Games that try to do new stuff, but they're not AAA sharp. And this is like one of those games that maybe had like, it was like a 7 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10, did some interesting things, but it didn't have that AAA polish. What's happening here is you have that kind of game, but you've given it the AAA overhaul graphically. So I enjoy it for that. What I haven't mentioned is a story or anything like that. Listen, the music is beautiful. The graphics are beautiful. If you're a graphic snob or a music snob, you're going to love this game for that. The story starts off very quickly.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you so you
Please.
don't, because I got stuff here. I got stuff.
Okay.
First, it's interesting you mentioned the PS2 analogy because I saw an article, unless you're on the side writing gaming articles that I don't know about, that said this exact same thing, but they didn't say it in the good way. They were like, this is a PS2 game, WTF, mate. And I didn't really read all the way through it, but I thought it was interesting that you aren't the only one who likens it to that generation of game, which I don't know. Personally, I don't think that's a good thing, but whatever. The music, you talking about, like, give me an example. Surely it's not like near music that's classical and epic. I doubt it's probably like Kingdom Hearts. That's also kind of like its weird little niche. What type of music are we talking about here?
I know you've never seen. I'm going to name some movies, and you've never seen any of them, probably.
Okay, F you. Let's do it.
My Neighbor Totoro.
Something that's English.
Spirited Away.
Oh, wait. Is that an
anime? Yeah.
Is it about people eating and they become pigs?
Yeah.
Yes. Suck that, Alex. Eat a bean. Eat a bean. Yes, it's bean time. Bean time. Bean time.
I have a barf
I know
bean
you gotta
over
get
here.
out your. I know you gotta get out your chair.
I
You
got a
go
barf
get
bean
them
right
baked
here,
beans.
right here, barf bean right here. I have nothing to drink. I've finished off
Well,
my
no,
drink.
you don't gotta do a barf. Spin it.
That's
or
all I have is
something.
that's all I have is a barf. And this
How
is
do you only have a barf?
because it was just sitting here on my desk from the last time we did this, Adam.
Bull crap. That is gonna be planted. It's gonna be peach. I feel it. I swear we didn't plan this, folks. He really didn't think I hadn't seen that
It's
movie.
certainly barf.
Yes, and it's barf.
I was on
Yes.
a roll here talking about Kina.
Listen, by the way, Spirited Away was horrible.
Oh, I love that movie.
Stupid, awful movie. Don't let your parents or your children watch it because it's awful. Yes, your face is so ugly, and I can't tell if it's because it's always like that or if it's because of the barf.
Anyways, while I puke, here's what I'll say about Kina. When I first started playing it, and this is pretty much bad about me.
Fight through the pain, man.
Yeah.
Fight through the pain.
This is how much I believe in this game. I did not enjoy it the first time I played it. I put about an hour or two into it, and I was just very underwhelmed. It's like the mechanics didn't feel well introduced, although it wasn't rushed. The combat didn't feel very fleshed out or engaging or exciting. I didn't care about the little creatures. There's little rot creatures that you collect that run around with you and whatever. They're cute. But I think I was just in a bad mood. Like I was sleepy. It was a long day of work, long day of taking care of kids and stuff. And I finally got around to it late at night and I was just tired. I will say my second time coming to play the game, I had more energy. I just had a better day and something about the game just clicked. The music came ramping in with its drum beats. It's Disney come Ghibli studio music motifs, just kind of hitting the beats while I'm playing the game, fighting these bosses. And I had a couple of bosses that I thought that were challenging. And kind of like the thing I like about the Metroid bosses is where it's like a lot of games will have a boss fight where it's like, once you figure out the trick, it's like so easy. You just like hit that button 3 times and they're dead. This game is like, yeah, there's the weak point, but guess what? You still got to hit it like a million times. It's still going to be difficult. You still got to have skill. And it's not just dodge them one time and then you take them out, do that 3 times and they're dead. I actually had to really fight and dodge and maneuver and plan my moves and stuff like that. And it was, uncommon in the modern gaming era. So I enjoyed that. Mixed with the music, mixed with the atmosphere. The story's picking up. The story seemed like it was going to be a simple Pixar story, but it's there. Like I said, there's those undertones to it. Something dark is happening that might not even get fleshed out, but it's just like you are this girl who is the bridge between the spirit world and the living world. And your goal is to help these spirits make it on to their next life or whatever like that. And they don't hit you over the face with it. but basically everybody you're interacting with is dead. You meet these cute kids running around. Guess what? They're already dead. They're spirits. You're trying to get them to move on. And that adds like a sadness to this cutesy, this ironic sadness to this cutesy, this cute voice acting that's going on, these cute characters that run around. And I think that's a really clever storytelling device. I really enjoy it. And that's what motivates me is like, yeah, I know something dark is happening here. And what is the game going to do with that? Now, I haven't beaten the game. I want to know what they do in the end. There's a chance they might just totally ruin it in the end. But at least until then, I'm engaged and I'm enjoying it. So there's that. Also, I got a bow and arrow just recently, and that really opens the game up combat-wise, makes it a lot more fun. So that's cool.
I'm going to be honest. I don't care. I'm not playing this. There's other stuff to play. We're going to talk about a couple of those games now. $40, Ember Labs.
It is expensive, but I will say I rarely stop and look around in games just because I think they're so beautiful. This has happened multiple times in a game where I've just stopped on the bluff of a cliff and just looked around and been like, wow, I was just, way down there. And I can still see everything that's way down there. And the environment around me is beautiful. The environment I see down there is beautiful. And everything is beautiful every step of the way. I enjoy
Have you done that with Ghost of Tsushima?
I have done that with Ghost of Tsushima, actually. Okay, so, yeah. All right. We're talking about two great games here.
Okay, I want to jump now to just general games that are being released. First one is interesting. It's a PS4 game, but you know what? We're going to talk about what we want to talk about because we're the boys. We're doing it for the boys. And we're talking about ActRaiser. I have to give Alex credit. You deserve credit, Alex. During school where Alex and I met, I went through a phase where I was playing all these Super Nintendo hits. Mario RPG, Super Metroid, Sky Blazer. What were some of the other ones played?
It was Soul Blazer, but yeah.
Well, no, there's also Sky Blazer.
Okay.
Yeah, dead serious. I'm not even joking. Like,
all right,
dead serious.
All right.
Soul was an effing good game. The first time I played Chrono Trigger. I mean, so many other good games. And you told me about ActRaiser. I had never heard of it. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. Sure, I'll play it. Good MFing game. If you have not played it, it is like a SimCity overworld game where you're building a city and there are different natural catastrophes that happen and you guide your people to grow. And that's one part of the game. And then all of a sudden, it turns into a 2D scroller. Very interesting component there, but it's real fun. At the end of the game, there's a boss rush. Horrid. Absolutely horrible. I hate boss rushes, but a very fun game. Wonderful. So that was the Super Nintendo, but they have now come out with that game on PS4, a revision. Alex, are you tempted to play this again? Ignore the price. I mean, it's updated graphics on PS4, so you can play it a little easier now. Are you tempted to try it out?
I'll say this. I've never enjoyed building management, building cities, crafting sim components. So when I saw the debut trailer of this game, I was all aboard when they showed the 2D action, the updated sprites, all that stuff. That's what I enjoyed about ActRaiser. And then they started going into and you can build your city and decide what gets destroyed so you can build for the new generation. And I immediately checked out and decided I'm not going to play this game because I got other games to play. So no, I'm not interested in this. Part of that's because of a game we'll talk about later, but I'm not interested in this. But
well, part of it's because you're stupid. The game is wonderful, and it's not like SimCity where you're spending hours building crap. Like it's very streamlined. It's very fun. I don't like those games either, Alex, but I enjoyed them. Just to let you know, to play the Super Nintendo version, folks. But they have the PS4 version now. It's $30. And originally, Alex, I was like, we were talking about it. I was like, dang, that's a lot of money for a remake. But then I promise you, we were in school together. How long, Alex? 4
years.
No, how long ago?
5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, 6, 7 years ago. I remember buying ActRaiser. Now I buy everything on eBay. Maybe I got a deal. I don't remember. I remember buying it for $21. I'm looking now on eBay. ActRaiser right here for the Super Nintendo, $52, $50, $58. These are pre-owned versions with bids on them. $45. It has writing on it. So somehow the price skyrocketed for Super Nintendo games. So when I was like $30, there's no way I would pay that. But if it's between that and these games that you're paying at least $50 for, maybe it's not that bad of a deal after all.
Well, $30 is a lot to ask for. Although it's pretty, it is still 16-bit generation gameplay. I don't know what they were thinking.
I mean, Nintendo does it all the time.
I know, and I don't buy Nintendo games because of it.
Well, that's smart. See, oh dang! Here is an ActRaiser complete in box.
This is the rabbit hole now, guys. Adam's just going to be browsing eBay looking for complete in-box editions.
Only $140. Only
all right, you're gonna pull the trigger.
Bucks.
You're gonna pull the trigger, Mr. Ghost of Tsushima, for $70.
Dang. Anyhow, so that's all I really have on ActRaiser. Consider playing on Super Nintendo. I'm probably not going to pull $30, mainly because of, again, one of the games that Alex is going to mention here. But I'll let you choose the next game because I'm just a very gracious host.
Yeah. So at the same time, the thing is, ActRaiser was announced at this like Nintendo Direct press conference. I didn't know it was coming out for PS4/PS5 as well. And the same thing's happening with this next game. Castlevania Advanced Collection was announced on the Nintendo Switch. I didn't know it came out at the same time on the PS4. I just found out before we recorded this podcast. Let me tell you about the Castlevania Advanced Collection. When the Game Boy Advance, honestly, maybe the greatest console.
Did you just say Gay Boy?
I did not, Adam. You heard it. I know you want me to talk about that with you.
I am certain you said Gay Boy. I'm going to run that back in post-production.
Okay. Yeah. Game Boy Advance, when it came out, I think it's one of the best consoles ever. When it came out, Castlevania Circle of the Moon came out. This was the only game to follow along the Symphony of the Night motif that everybody loved. And it was the next game to come out along those lines.
Was that the one that's called what was it? Castle Metroid? Or it was like Super Metroid?
Metroidvania. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Symphony of the Night kind of cemented the idea that there's this Metroidvania game genre, kind of Castlevania, kind of Metroid, that kind of thing. This was, Super Metroid didn't have a sequel. Symphony of the Night didn't have a sequel. Circle of the Moon came out for the Game Boy Advance. Everybody loved the game. They said it was really good, except it was too dark. The Game Boy Advance didn't have any backlight. So people docked it, and the game's reputation suffered because of it, because people just said, it's a good game, but you can't play it because it's too dark. And because of that, nobody reveres the game the way they should. I absolutely loved the game. I played through it on a Game Boy SP with the backlight. The game was incredible because you could change the way you were fighting Tsushima. You collected cards that adjusted how your whip worked, adjusted the magic you had. You had other game modes where you could only use magic, or you have one hit and you die, or you're super strong with your strength and you can't use magic. Stuff that you don't normally see in Metroidvania games. And it was great, subtle graphics without these glowing sprites all over the place because they're not trying to circumvent this dark screen anymore. That is now out on the Game Boy, on the PlayStation 4. You can play that game in this full up resolution scaled glory, along with its sequels, which are also amazing. Aria of Sorrow and Harmony of Dissonance. These are some of the greatest Metroidvania games ever released. Definitely some of the greatest Castlevania games ever released. You can get all three of them. And there's also Castlevania Dracula X Rondo of Blood, which is kind of like a bad Super Nintendo port of a really good game that came out on the PSP. $20. And you get three of the best games I've ever played.
Can't play any of the original ones that everyone likes?
They're rare. They're hard to find. The Game Boy Advance carts are like $50 each for these games.
No, I don't care about those. Say I want to play Castlevania 4.
It's a totally different style of game. Castlevania 4 is just like one of those challenging.
So this Advanced Collection is only the crappy Game Boy games.
It's the Game Boy Advanced games, which are much better than Castlevania 4. So these are some of the greatest games of all time. Easily. Their game design was years ahead of what anybody else was doing. And it's only $20. How are you going to pay $30 for ActRaiser? Maybe 10 hours of gameplay when you can buy the Castlevania Advanced Collection and it gives you 100 hours of some of the best gameplay there's ever been.
I'm super skeptical. I'm not even interested in this. I am curious. This is a super small tangent. What Castlevania games have you played? Like in general, all of them.
Castlevania, Super Castlevania 4, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Castlevania Circle of the Moon, Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, Castlevania Lament of Innocence. Oh crap! What was it? Order of Ecclesia, Castlevania. There was the other one for the DS. Oh, Portrait of Ruin. I've played all those, and I think I'm probably even missing one or two.
There's like the most random ones. I've played the first.
Oh, Dracula X. I played that one too, and I played Castlevania Legend on the Game Boy.
I played Dracula X, and I played the third one. I think that one's on Super Nintendo, right? Like the best one. You broke up a little bit, probably because of my internet, but definitely, I'm pretty sure the one on Super Nintendo is considered the best Super Nintendo.
Adam, are you with me?
Yeah, so I think the Super Nintendo one is probably the best. And that's the one I played. Anyhow, I'm not interested in your crap, Alex. I'm not playing that. I played the good ones. I don't want to play no Game Boy freaking advanced games. Go play with yourself. Lost Judgment. Is this on your radar at all, Alex?
It's big time on my radar because you got me hyped for talking about how crazy it is. I'm hearing things that this is one of the best video game stories of the whole year. When we've had a games with stories that I love coming out all year, and this is supposed to be the best one. It's part of that Yakuza universe that people have loved. The games that I always wanted to play but could never get into because there's like 8 of them now. Judgment is like a side story. You don't have to have history with those games to get into, but you can still enjoy the gameplay. Judgment came out. There's PS Plus, so I have it now, but I haven't touched it. Lost Judgment's the sequel, which is more optimized for the next generation. Yeah, I want to get in here. I want to play this like detective Yakuza beat 'em up type game with all these crazy mini games. Nothing but good things coming out of what I hear from this game. I very much want to play it. Do I have the time? We'll find out. It looks really good. It looks really fun. It looks funny and touching and engaging. And yeah, I want to be a part of it. Are you going to get it? Is Cheapskate Adam going to take the plunge?
I think I might. So this is now a couple state of plays ago. This was the one game that I was like, it blew me away. The trailer was nuts. You went from curb stomping people to playing like DDR, and then just the things that trailer had, all the different activities, surfing. I think there's like cooking, jumping across cars. It just was a mishmash. It was absolute insanity. Wild. It was ludicrous. I was like, what is this? It's like a 6th grader told some game designer, hey, this is what I want to do this weekend. And they made it into a game or a trailer at least. So I have no idea about that universe. I don't know anything about Judgment, but I'm very interested in this game. If I find out that I didn't need to have to play Judgment to play this, I will probably get it. Even then, I'm sure I could watch like a YouTube synopsis of the plot or understanding of Judgment and probably get away with it. But I'm pretty interested just because it looks so wild.
The reviews are coming in now, and they're all rave for it as well. So I say jump in.
Unless they are official play PSVR, PS5, I don't trust them. People get paid for those. It's garbage.
Okay, fair enough. Adam, speaking of crazy games, speaking of wild games, Hideo Kojima, one of the game designers I absolutely love, has just released his director's cut upgrade for Death Stranding. I bought Death Stranding for the PS4 on the cheap back when it was like $10 for a physical disc. Now I can pay $10 more, get it upgraded to the director's cut PS5 edition. And I'm so excited. Adam, I know you love crazy games. I want you to play Hideo Kojima games. And I think the only one you played was Zone of the Enders 2, which you liked. But that was maybe one of the most like reined in Hideo Kojima games, not that crazy. Death Stranding is crazy. You're a dude delivering packages across a post-apocalyptic America, carrying a baby in like a little bubble sack with you all the time. And you have Guillermo del Toro in the game for some reason. You have Jeff Keighley in the game for some reason. You have Norman Reedus as the main character. All these famous actors. You have Hideo Kojima's crazy movie stuff, crazy plot stuff, crazy music stuff going on. There's going to be a million things to like in this game, and now it's the director's cut, which is full of quality of life improvements and PS5 enhancements. I think this is the game I'm going to have to move on to. This is why I'm not going to play Lost Judgment, Adam. This is why I'm going to buy Castlevania and never touch it, because I got to play Death Stranding. And I don't know. You said you're not going to play it. What did you hear about it that made you not want to play it?
So I heard, because I looked at playing this, because it was on PlayStation Plus for free, and I was figuring out what do I play, and I watched a kind of like a review of it on YouTube, and I think maybe even went into some very basic plot things, and I heard that plot was good, people liked it, but it was just extremely slow. So although the plot was good, to uncover some of that plot, you had to fight through tons of very boring and repetitive gameplay. And I am much more of the Ghost of Tsushima, like Rambo, make it fast, let's do combat, not, oh, here's a environmental hazard, let me very carefully and skillfully find a way around it to avoid killing this baby. It's not my type of gameplay. I feel like it's going to be too slow paced for me. So it's going to be a game that probably I'm going to have to watch the plot on YouTube, enjoy it from there. I know it's not the same, but that type of game, I don't want to put 60 hours in.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. But on the other hand, I can appreciate a slow game, especially if it's doing something interesting. Hideo Kojima's never led me astray. Even when people thought Metal Gear Solid 2 was too crazy, I was here for the ride. You know, when he did crazy stuff with Boktai, where you're playing a Game Boy game out in the sun and burning vampires with the literal sun shining on your Game Boy in order to kill the enemies, I'm there for it. He does crazy stuff all the time. And this is just kind of like...
I got one. Kojima or Taro? Which one do you pick?
The thing is about Taro, he doesn't care about the gameplay, right? Like Taro doesn't care. Like the games are fun, but he doesn't care if it's like a janky mess either. He'll put out a janky mess as long as it's got his weird ass story in it. Kojima at least wants to make the gameplay solid and fresh too. So the story might not be as weird. The story might be a bit crazier and maybe less cohesive and affecting than Yoko Taro's games. I don't know. That's a tough call because Nier Automata and Nier Replicant are just two straight up masterpieces. But it's been so long since I played Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 1 changed the way I thought video games could ever be. And it was basically like a turning point in my life as a game player. So I have to give Kojima credit for that. I don't know. Two masterpieces, two master auteur game designers, I guess. I can't pick between them.
Fair enough. I'm probably not gonna play it. Maybe I'll do some research just for you, see if there's even a chance I would like it, and then maybe give it a shot. If not, I'm gonna move on to Lost Judgment, and there's gonna be things coming out too that certainly I'm gonna want to play. So plus we got our work cut out with this with our special project, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Anyways, well, Adam, I think that's all of the topics we're going to discuss today. I got to get back to playing Kina Bridge of Spirits and hopefully hammering through Ghost of Tsushima. Do you have any parting words for our friends, Adam?
You know, Ghost of Tsushima was the one game that took me away from playing Tetris. I was on a roll. I went back and I suck. I'm getting waxed by these people. I only lose the people who are playing on a computer. And they're real good at T-spins. So either one, people on computers are just really into Tetris and they're real good, or two, they're cheating. I think know which.
I think you're just playing against that guy's will and he's changing his name every time. I think that's what's happening.
I don't think so. Last time I played Will, I took him to the woodshed.
All right. Well, anyways, that's it. That's it for episode 29 of Play PS5 the podcast. Maybe that's it for Play PS5 the podcast. We'll find out. We're playing PS5 games. We might be talking to you soon. Anyways, who knows? Who knows when we're going to talk to you again? So please Play some video games. Tweet at us at PlayPS5 the pod. We will eat your lunch. Don't play with yourself. Play PS5, the podcast.